This build guide is going to take you through everything as a beginner in how to use the dual swords type of build in Albion Online. We're going to be looking through tier 2 to tier 4 for this beginner build. So starting off, what weapons are we going to use? Beginner's broadsword to start off with, going straight on to a novice broadsword. There is no dual swords before we get to tier 4, by the way. So we're going to have to unfortunately go for a one-handed weapon. What are we going to use on the tier 2 novice's broadsword then? Well, you have the heroic strike, which is better for single target, and heroic cleave, better for when you have multiple targets. This is also going to put heroic charge on you, increasing your movement speed and auto attack speed for a few seconds, and it can stack. We also get the blade cyclone ability, where we spin in a target direction, dealing damage to nearby enemies that we pass through. We also get the mighty blow crowd control, where we leap towards an enemy, interrupting their spell casting, so whenever they're casting a spell, you want to use this. If you want, on the passive, some extra damage, then go for deep cuts for a bleed, or weakening, which is a debuff to the enemy, reducing how much damage they do to you if you need some more survivability. Of course, while doing these things, we can use a Novice's Shield as well in order to get some extra defense. At tier 3, I would just upgrade that straight into a broadsword. I would still go with the same abilities. Using Mighty Blow as your interrupt, you do get a separate interrupt called Interrupt, but I would just stick with Blade Cyclone, as you can use Mighty Blow for your interrupts. And then lastly, of course, once we get up to tier 4, we're going to be going for the Adept's dual swords, which is what we'll be actually using in this beginner build. We still have Heroic Strike and also Heroic Cleave, and we have a lot more abilities unlocked on the W, if you're on PC at least, keybind. However, we're pretty much going to be going with Blade Cyclone still. We do, though, however, change down on the next ability to Spinning Blades. Dealing massive amounts of damage in a 5-meter radius on impact, hitting at least one enemy will increase your auto attack speed and physical auto attack damage by a massive amount for a few seconds. Basically, we leap towards a target, becoming immune to all crowd controls until impact. So that's the weapons we're going to be using from tier 2, 3, and 4. What are we? Oh, and obviously you'll have to get rid of your shield at this point. But what are we using on our armor? Well, starting off with tier 2 on the feet, I always recommend that you go for the Soldier's Novice Boots, because it gives you the Rejuvenating Spirit ability, increasing movement speed, but also regenerating some health for you. I'm going to then recommend you upgrade that to just the tier 3 version, doing the same thing. On the passives, you can go for more max load, or just simply increasing your defense, and these boots early on are going to give you a lot more survivability. I would then actually recommend going up to the Adept's Soldier's Boots at tier 4, again with Rejuvenating Spirit. This build doesn't have a lot of self-healing, really, hence why I'm going with these boots all the way up to tier 4, and staying with the Rejuvenating Spirit. One thing as a beginner you may not be aware of is that even as like a warrior type class, you can actually get your gear from all different places. And that is why on the head item, I'd recommend going for the Adept's Mage Cowl. This basically is going to give us something called Fire Breath, where we can breathe out a cone of fire in front of us and do a lot more damage. Up until this point, I'd recommend going with the Novice's Scholar Cowl, which gives you a knockback force field ability as seen here, sending out a shockwave, knocking back enemies, and this will basically like interrupt them as well. And then at tier 3, just go up to the Journeyman's Scholar Cowl as well, keeping with the same ability, and for the passive, it's aggression, increasing all of your damage and healing. For the chest piece, you're going to go with the Novice's Mercenary Jacket at the Ranger. Mainly the Inferno Shield is what we're using here. This is also going to give increased damage and healing and defense, but the Inferno Shield basically gives you a shield and reflects back damage to your attackers. Again, upgrade this at level 3, and then at level 4, we're actually going to go with the Adept's version for Bloodlust. Give into your Bloodlust, restoring health whenever you deal direct damage within the next 6 seconds. This is obviously a massive heal that you can get, and we also have a few different passives like increasing your cooldown rate, your auto attack speed, or your damage and healing and defense, which is Balanced Mind, which is what I would personally go with on the chest piece. For the bag, just go with the highest that you can afford for more load, and then on the cape, go with just the highest you can get for more energy regeneration. For your potions, I would go with a minor healing potion at tier 2, and then at level 4, I would just go up for a minor poison potion that you can use to slow enemies and do a damage over time. On the food, there's quite a lot of different ones you can use, really. It's kind of up to you, depending on what you can afford. Carrot soup is good really early on for basically just getting health regeneration, but out of combat. When you're actually crafting your gear, I would recommend, if you can, using things like turnip salads. That's, of course, assuming you are crafting it and not just buying it at the marketplace, which will actually increase the crafting speed for a short duration. Then, for actually in combat, I'd go with something like a goat stew, increasing combat damage. There we go, and that is the dual-wielding build I would recommend as a beginner in Albion Online. Use the abilities I've mentioned, obviously on the keybind shown, for the reasons mentioned, and use the gear that I've shown you, and you're going to be doing absolutely fine. If you're not sure about anything I've mentioned, don't know how to make them, etc., because you are a beginner, as these are beginner builds, then check out the playlist you now see on screen, as I've got an ultimate beginner's guide that will cover all of that off for you, and I've got loads of other beginner build guides, so you can watch them and see actually what build you'd prefer before taking that leap.